Is everybody having a good time so far? Yeah. Really enjoying yourself? I've been watching everyone's walking around with so many bags. That's why you're saying, because the bags crinkle and do all that kind of stuff there. I mean, everyone is just really like spending. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what you do. When you're going to just spend money for 3 days, that's great.
We were just speaking amongst ourselves and saying how very well behaved all of you Canadian folk are. Don't apologize for it.
Right. No, we were sitting here, and you were all so nice, quiet, polite, and behaving yourself sitting there. I just came to BotCon. They were kind of like animalistic in the crowd there. So it was, it's nice to see the difference.
Richard, shut up.
I haven't. Well, being a Canadian, or actually naturalized, I've been here for 45 years, so I feel kind of quiet and apologetic.
Okay, you want to get this going? Line starts here. Who has questions?
I was just saying, don't knock yourselves out over there.
I will say one thing,
It's going to be a long hour.
It's going to be a very long hour. I have been directed to refuse a very specific type of question, the if your characters are in a drive-through, what would they do type of question. Please do not ask. David K. once called these the stupid monkey trick questions. So, go for it.
Hi. It's wonderful to see all of you again. I mean, I've met all of you before at various BotCons, and John, as I mentioned earlier today, I met you at my first one way back in 2000.
We both lost our virginity together.
Yeah. We both had a lot more hair on our heads back then, too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. I remember you telling the audience at BotCon 2000 a very interesting story about how you were up for a role in the Dick Tracy film, and then for various reasons things got switched around and it ended up being a totally different role. I was wondering if you could tell that story again for everyone.
Well, someone at the studio thought it'd be very funny to have the guy who's known for speaking very quickly and being able to be understood to play the part of Mumbles in the movie Dick Tracy, where you couldn't understand a word that he said. So I had 11 auditions with Mr. Beatty, Warren Beatty, who was the director. The movie went through several different turnarounds into different studios, and they, some we want it very cartoony, we want it very serious. So every time I went for the audition, we had to do it a little bit different. So, I mean, okay, mumble like this and mumble like that and do whatever. So we were right down to the wire. They had to make up their mind who they were going to pick. They were going to let us know on Tuesday morning. And they call on Tuesday morning, and Warren Beatty called himself, and he said, I had lunch with my buddy Dusty on Sunday. And Dusty said he wanted to be in the movie, so the only part that was left was yours, so we gave it to Dusty, and that's Dustin Hoffman, Dusty. So I was like, well, I guess I understand that, because everybody in the movie worked for scale. And so if Dustin Hoffman wants to work for scale, I guess they'll let Dustin Hoffman do it. And I was out of the movie. He said, but I'm going to keep you in the movie anyway. So they made me one of the reporters, and I was in a bunch of different scenes, and I had this great yellow suit. And after they finished filming the movie, they realized that I was the only person in the movie who wore yellow besides Dick Tracy. So the only thing you see of me is this, my mouth. My voice comes out of the radio, and you see my mouth going like this, and you see my mouth crooked like this, and you see my mouth crooked like that, but you never see my body, you never see my face, you never see anything, because they had to cut the yellow out. But I get lots of residuals from that movie, and I get the same amount of residuals as Madonna, because we all got paid scale.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I had two questions. I had one for. I'm gonna start with Richard, and then with John.
Okay.
Richard, how did you get your role in Beast Wars?
Well, the way that works is that we all, of course, have agents. And the casting directors for any project will call the agency and say, okay, we're looking for these roles. You suggest who you think among your clients you'd like to send out to us. Then the agency suggests people, and then the people who are casting go, no, I don't want that person. I hate that person. Not going to listen to that person. So it's basically you show up, you do your best job, you hopefully leave it all on the floor, and when they call you and say it's yours, that's when you know it's yours. But yeah, there's not much that we can do about that. We don't really create our own work. We kind of have to wait for the phone to ring.
Haven't you ever heard of bribery?
That's how he gets all his
work
work.
in Canada. Canada, they can't bribe anybody in Canada. Except with booze.
And John, how did you get to become like the world's fastest talking man?
Well, when I was 12 years old, growing up on Long Island, there was a cerebral palsy fair a few blocks away from my house, and they announced that they would donate $2,000 to cerebral palsy for anyone that broke a Guinness record. So first I wanted to ride the roller coaster at Coney Island. So I called Coney Island, and they said, hey, kid, take a hike. You're 12 years old. We are not going to let you strap yourself into the cyclone for 2 weeks straight. So I went home and I started flipping through a book and decided that I wasn't going to eat a car, swallow lead pipes. So the next best thing was to lock myself in a room and teach myself how to do the fast talking. I also had 5 sisters, so to get a word in edgewise was a little bit of self-defense.
Thank you both.
You're welcome. It's a talking camera.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Out of
That's
curiosity.
my dad's name. My name is Richard.
Richard? What episode from Beast Wars is your favorite featuring your character Rhinox?
I'm sorry, what's my favorite?
Beast Wars, least favorite and favorite Beast Wars episode starring Rhinox.
Oh gosh, that would be a really tough question. I know my favorite episode, without doubt, is the one where he ate something bizarre and was almost destroyed the home base by belching fire all over the place. That was a lot of fun to do. And I guess my least favorite would have been my last, because it was that, wasn't it? Aww.
Well, thank you. I love your hat, by the way.
Thank you. It covers the fact that I no longer have any covering on my head.
Do I go around here or?
Hello.
Hello.
My question is for John. A few years ago, for Robot Chicken, you did a segment which began as an ordinary Micro Machines commercial, but which rapidly degraded into a commentary on a failed marriage. Did you get that in one take, or did it take a couple?
No, we had to do it in one take, and I kept saying in between every take, I would say, now you call the legal department. You're allowed to say this. I can say this stuff. I could not believe what they get away with on that show. I've done several episodes of that show, and every time I said to them, now you call the legal department. You made sure I could. Because we were talking about the Micro Machines man in an empty hanging sack, and his wife had cut off his balls and done all this other stuff, and I'm like, I can say this on television? You're allowed to say this? Are you sure Micro Machines isn't because they were not making any secret that I was the Micro Machine man? I mean, I was ripping off myself. And they were like, you sure now the Hasbro's not going to sue you? No, we're totally covered. We had it cleared. So I said, all right, well, I'll say it, whatever. Paycheck's a paycheck. And Micro Machines is not writing any more checks to me, so.
Secondly, can we expect to hear any of you in the upcoming Transformers Devastation game?
Not me.
Not me.
I have not been asked yet.
Yes.
Poke them with a large stick or
Right.
threaten to harm
Well,
them.
when they call you, please tell them that we're available.
I have a couple of friends who could use the work.
Thank you.
Realize there's almost a music cue for you? Village people. Micro man. John's gonna be the micro man.
Woo!
Sorry.
They were fun. I love doing those commercials.
What's
they
in
were so
this
much
water?
fun.
Okay, we're done.
All right.
Okay.
Were you clearing the
Michael.
question? Make sure it wasn't a what kind of question did you call them? Stupid monkey trick question.
Michael, when you did the Captain Harlock voice, how much effort did you have to put into getting into the character? Or was it just
Well, since Harlock is pretty much comatose, and his dialogue consists mostly of, no. Yes, wait. I got a degree in theater arts for that stuff, baby.
It's fine. Thank you, Michelle. I have a question for Richard. I asked the same question with Gary Chalk. I wanted to know, since you worked on Reboot, Beast Wars, Beast Machines, even Shadow Raiders, I want to know whether or not that you actually got a tour of Mainframe, and if you remember, what did you saw and what did you think about that tour?
Right. Well, when Mainframe first opened up, it was around the time that people were getting a little paranoid when the non-disclosure things began to happen. So they weren't all that anxious to kind of show off the plant. But I do remember being very impressed with the folks who were putting that all together. And And yeah, they're rebooting Reboot. So, who knows? Maybe I'll get a chance to look at it this time.
Hopefully. And I have a question for John. Since you are well known as the fastest talking man, I want to know whether or not that you actually had practice in even today, that you practice on mastering your craft on talking faster than a normal human being.
Well, definitely when I taught myself how to do it when I was 12, I just did it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And, I had 5 sisters, so I would, put them in my bedroom and make them sit in the corner, and I'd say something really fast, and they'd go, what did I say? What did I say? What did I say? And kind of torture them with that. Now I'm lucky. I was told to shut up for about 15 years, and then all of a sudden it was, my son, the fast talker, is home. So it was a little bit of a turnaround. Now I'm lucky I work enough that just practicing the scripts and doing whatever keeps it in, keeps the lips limber. And then I will sometimes, usually when I'm working, I do my warm-ups. I have a series of warm-up exercises that I do. I generally do them in the shower because I find it annoys the fewest amount of people that way. And just, keep limber and hope for the best. Some days it doesn't work. I've had a couple of days where I go to work, I can't say 3 words without tripping over them. But usually, knock on wood, it's pretty good.
And now my last question for Michael. We have talked earlier about directing. Now, I wanted to know about, since you also have done acting, is it much easier for a director to have an acting experience to actually, have a better understanding with their actors when you are as the director?
Without question. There's a language difference between directors and human beings.
That's true, I know.
And if you don't have a common basis of reference, it's going to be difficult. Although, if you have working relationships with people, there's one fellow, Carl Masek, anyone know that name? Basically the man who brought anime to the Western world, was crazy because he would do things in terms of directing where we'd say, McConnohie, put some more cheese on it. I knew what he meant, and there was at one point, Wally Burr.
Yes.
Wally Burr knows what he wants.
Wally Burr was here not too long ago.
Yes, Wally Burr is everywhere. Wally Burr knows what Wally Burr wants. Wally Burr will go until he gets what he wants.
And it's usually something like this.
And yes, and he'll always give you a line reading. But then you know what he wants. However, once he told me, Mr. McConnohie, could you please make it a little more purple? Okay. So I did the reading and said, yes, that's it, thanks.
The dumbest thing I ever had the director say to me was, that was perfect, we just want one more. Could you make it a little brighter on the dark side? And I'm like, sure, what the hell? And the other stupidest thing was, you have 1/100th of a second, could you finesse Terminal 1 a little more in the next take?
And you did.
I did.
Yes. So yes, it is a great advantage for a director to be able to speak actor.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen.
You're
Well,
welcome.
Thanks, Christina.
My question is for...
Come on, old man, stand up.
My question is for all 3 of you, and I want to know, who do you think would win in a fight between all 4 of your Transformers characters?
What I love about that is, I'm 5'8" and I weigh about 145 pounds. And I play the biggest Maximal. And it's just such a thrill to, even for those few moments once a week, to be able to be 80 feet tall and the most powerful creature on the block. So I love this business.
Guess it's settled.
Yeah, I think so.
No, you've forgotten one thing. The exhaust that comes out of a green flying saucer. Suck on that, Rhinox.
Hi, I guess my first question is for Richard. It's also about Rhinox. He had something of a dark streak in that character, and it's something that became sort of more and more important, especially in the movement into Beast Machines. I was wondering if that's something that was sort of given to you when you received the character, if it's something that was sort of you were pushed towards by the directors, or is it something that you brought to the character yourself?
No, that basically is written. You get your script every week, and oh, that's what I'm doing now. Oh, that's who I'm becoming, which is part of the excitement of it, actually, because you don't know. You could show up any week, and the first episode of the second season, a couple of pals who were really good actors showed up thinking we were all of us were still in the second season, and and Terrorsaur and Scorponok, gone, dead. End of story. Last episode, first episode, second season. So it can be a bit of a disappointment sometimes. But no, we don't really know. It's basically we just get the script and we're told what it is we have to do. Although I did find the changes and I mean over the course of the 3 years that we did Beast Wars, that very, very interesting. And that whole thing about this big old guy who would just as soon be smelling flowers as fighting anybody, I just found that really quite charming.
Thank you. And for John, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but is your fast talking something that you can turn off and on, or is it something you find in normal conversation you'll start talking way too fast to somebody?
Well, sometimes if I start to get excited, I'll pick up the pace a little bit and start talking a little bit quickly. Generally, I just flip the switch and I turn off. And it's really funny, like you'll be shooting a commercial. And I'm doing it take after take after take after take, different things, whatever else. And gradually you see everybody else on the set starts to get a little bit faster, a little bit faster, a little bit faster. And then they yell, okay, that's a wrap. I turn it off and everybody else is walking into walls. They're like, get over there. And they can't turn it off. So then they're like coming after me. They're like, oh, how do we do this? How do we turn it off? I won't be able to sleep tonight. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. I'm asleep now. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Moschitta Jr., the walking epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
And last but certainly not least, I have another question sort of related to your direction work. Samurai Pizza Cats, how and why did it turn out that way?
What way do you mean?
Well, the story I was always told was that you did not receive any sort of scripts for the episodes when you got them, so you had to rewrite them.
Yes.
So how did you decide on the tone that you went in? Why did you sort of take the direction you did with the show?
Because there were no chains upon us. We were free to look at it and say, that would be funny. That might work. We'll do that. Who's going to tell us not to? And it was, someone just told me that apparently they've just been released on DVD.
Mm-hmm. Very recently.
I guess I got to get me some of them and see what it was I did. And see if I want to take the credit for it. But usually I still do a lot of anime writing, the adaptation, and it's very strictured these days. I mean, the rights holders and producers have a lot of control over the content and the character and all of that. But Samurai Pizza Cats was like free play. And I still got a paycheck.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Yeah.
Hi, my question is for Richard. It's actually a two-parter. First part is, besides Rhinox, who is your favorite Beast Wars character, and what was it like working with that particular character's voice actor?
Gosh, my favorite Beast Wars character. That's a real tough one. I'm glad that none of my Vancouver friends are here to hear me answer this question. Like Scotty McNeil is just such an amazing actor. And I mean, all three of his characters, and I mean, were there only three? There might have been 12. I'm not really sure. There were 4. We're all so wonderful. He's just such a wonderful actor to work with. The only thing about Scott I'll tell you is, if you're an actor, you don't want to audition after him. Because he's going to be in there for an hour and a half. The first half hour, he's just talking. But he's a great guy and a great character. And I'd have to say that Scotty's work was probably among my favorite work in that show, just because it was so different, so varied. And he claims to have 500 voices. I agree, he does, but 450 of them sound very similar.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Hey, Matthew. Just a question about Cosmos's voice. What headspace did you get into when you were making that, like his accent specifically? Like,
all right, Cosmos. Oh, my poor little Cosmos. I was asked to do a bad Peter Lorre impression. So I said, okay, I can do a bad Peter Lorre impression. But it's interesting because innately Cosmos is to me so incredibly sweet and innocent. Of all the Transformers in the cast, I think spiritually, personality-wise, Cosmos and Bumblebee have a lot in common. So I tried to borrow a little of the sweetness from Gil Bazan's Bumblebee, who is not a muscle car. But there's an innocence and an ingenuousness to Cosmos that I really like and enjoy. But he's got this physical mass. So to get into the character, a lot of guys have distinct physical cues to trigger their voice, and with Cosmos, it's a matter of getting down and just hanging very low to get that. But remembering that if I'm down here, I still have to be sweet. Aww.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is a question for all three of you. This obviously being a Transformers convention, you guys get asked about the Transformers all the time, but is there a favorite character or a favorite show you've worked on that you don't usually get asked about? And if so, what is it?
Transformers related or not?
Go wild.
I can't do that.
Richard. Well, I guess one of the things that I love most about this industry is that we can do so many different things. So I've done a lot of villains. I've done a lot of do not fail me, that sort of thing. And one of my favorite roles is, without doubt, Franklin the Turtle's father. I got that gig when my kid was less than a year old, and I was brought into the audition. It was in Toronto, actually. I was here doing a production of Angels in America. And once the show had opened, I called Nelvana, and they said, oh, come in and meet the folks. You're wrong for this role, because you do not fail me. But come in and meet the folks. So I came in and I got the role of Franklin the Turtle's father. And it made me a better dad. And so I would have to say that that's probably, aside from this kind of, the Beast Wars Transformers thing, that probably is one of my favorites. I've also done, like, 100 and some odd episodes of it, so kind of know the guy.
Okay.
Do you want to go? I have nothing to say. I don't know.
I've been, the last few years, I mean, ever since, I got the puberty injection, I've been doing grown-up roles. And it's starting to wear off, and I think I'm going to get another shot. I got a chance to do, this was like 10 years ago, and I can't remember the name of the show. It was an anime series, but I got to play the bad guy, who was a little fella like this, and he was one of the most insidious, quietly evil, plotting, Machiavellian little fellows. And he was such a change of pace, and he was so freaking bloody. It was cool. As opposed to things like, Lelouch! How many times can you scream and the Lich King with, bow down before me. Bow down. As long as you're down there, do me a favor. Bow down. No, sorry. I didn't say that. Sorry, excuse me.
I haven't done as many different voices. I've done, a bunch of different voices. So, I mean, I always enjoy any of that stuff because it's great. You just go in, you can be in your pajamas. It doesn't matter. You can just get it done. And it's a lot of fun. And working with, guys like these guys it's hysterical. I mean, you just have a great time doing it. I've had a lot of different fun experiences. I think probably the most nerve-wracking and one that sticks in my mind is I'm the last person to read the rules at the Academy Awards. Oh, yes! And that was a long time ago now. It's actually a Trivial Pursuit question, so if you ever get it now, you know the answer. And I learned a very important lesson in Hollywood when I did that. Because I thought it would be funny to have me do the rules. So every time they would announce who the producer was going to be, and I would say, okay, let's call them, and I'd have the managers call them and say, it'd be great you have John. No, it's not a good idea. And then someone said to me, it's not a good idea in Hollywood until it's their idea. So I said, next year when they announce the producer, wait 3 days before you call them. They announced the producer was Howard Koch, who was an old-fashioned movie produced Maltese Falcon and all those movies. And he talked like this and always had the cigar hanging out of his mouth. And we waited, and we get a phone call. Mr. Koch has a fabulous idea. He just thought it'd be so funny to have John read the rules at the Academy Awards. I was like, how did he ever come up with that idea? We'll do it. So I went to go meet Howard Koch. And he was very funny. He told story after story after story. He told me a story about Danny Simon, who was Neil Simon's brother. Neil Simon, the famous playwright, Odd Couple, and all those shows. He goes, I used to hire Danny. He used to be a script doctor for me, fix the scripts. And one time he rewrote this script for me, and he brings it in. It's a piece of garbage. I said, I'm not paying you for this. It's a piece of garbage. He says, what do you mean it's not paying for me? I'm one of the best writers in Hollywood. He says, I got news for you, brother. You're not even the best writer in your family. So then he said, okay, but here's the thing. You'll do it, but you can't tell anybody about it. Nobody can know you're doing it. It has to be a big surprise. So, okay, fine. So we're trying to hold it as a big surprise. Every day, I am practicing the rules in the shower, when I'm eating, when I'm doing whatever, because you're going to be live in front of a billion people. You do not want to screw it up. The awards back then were still on Monday. Friday, I go in for the rehearsal. Rehearsal goes perfectly. Terrific. We go for the dress rehearsal on Monday morning, and the AD walks up to me and says, here's the new script. I said, what do you mean, here's the new script? The rules haven't changed in 55 years. What do you mean? He said, well, they really thought it was hysterical, but it only took you 8 seconds, and they want to make it at least 15 seconds, so they wrote more copy. I said, well, I've been practicing this other stuff. He said, don't worry, we're going to put it on cue cards for you. So they put it on cue cards. The cue card guy comes out. We have the rehearsal. It goes fine. I go home. I'm panic-stricken now. I'm practicing this thing all day long. Well, that year, the show had 3 hosts, Walter Matthau, Dudley Moore, and Liza Minnelli. And I'm standing in the wings. Tom Selleck, it was his first, he had done that movie where he played a pilot or something, and he was going to be a presenter. He was so nervous, he was crying standing next to me in the wings. I'm standing there, and there's Liza Minnelli and the 3 of them all doing their opening singing, dancing number. And then they go to introduce me, and there's Liza Minnelli introducing me, and I'm like, I'm like 23 years old. I'm like, oh my God, Liza Minnelli is introducing me. And I go out and I start doing the rules. And the audience reaction, they don't mic the audience at the Academy Awards because there's too much rustle with the people getting up and going down and doing whatever else. So I start doing the thing, the crowd goes crazy, and the cue card guy can't hear me. So I get to the part where I know the actors vote for actors, directors vote for directors, and I don't know what's next, and I paused, which live on TV felt like about a year and a half, just standing there. But of course it was just like a snap when you watch it. The cue card guy knew I didn't know what was next, so he starts flipping through the cards and drops them. And they went all over the floor of the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. And he is now crawling on hands and knees going, this one, screaming. The crowd in the audience can see all this. People at home have no idea this is going on. I'm talking about anything that comes into my mind about the Academy Awards. I don't even remember thinking about it, talking about, this was that. And I finally held up the right card and I finished it and I walked off and that was it. And I thought, oh, it's terrible. The only one that knew anything was wrong was my mother. My mother said, what happened? I saw that look of panic on your face. Everybody else was, that was fantastic, No.
That is awesome. Thank you, guys.
Hello?
Hi.
A question for Richard Newman.
Yes.
I remember back when you voiced a character in Monster Rancher, Golem, that... And the funny thing, he's very afraid of water.
Yes. I remember Golem. He talked pretty slow. and very low.
But he was another one of these very peaceful giants. That was a fun character, actually.
You do like being afraid of water. Help! I'm drowning. I'm
Yeah,
drowning.
yeah. Yeah, he certainly had his hydrophobia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes? Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, this question's more centered towards John, but, you know, if you other two guys want to chime in, go ahead. So there's obviously other fast-talking people out there, and maybe you're not, you've heard of Busta Rhymes. 90s rap star. Have you met any other fast-talking people like yourself and done any musical things or anything of that nature?
I almost did a rap song years ago, and I did a rap-off actually in a bar in Buffalo, very drunk one night, where the rapper, who I don't know who he was, it was a local Buffalo rapper. I haven't done it. You know, back when I first started, the difference between me, what really brought the fast-talking that I do to prominence was the Federal Express commercial back in 1981, where before, there had been fast talkers certainly on TV before. And for as fast as I talk for TV, there's quite a few people that can do that kind of stuff. My record was for 11 and a half words a second. So, but for TV, you really only talk about 6 words a second. So that's only half as fast as I can really go. And I totally forgot my total train of thought there. Just went right out of my head. It'll come back to me in a second. I'm quite sure of it. Maybe I can sing you a little song in the interim. We're talking.
Did you hit the karaoke last night?
I'm not doing the bars and the so the Federal Express commercial. There we go. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I played this character Jim Spleen, and he sat behind the the desk and went, Dave, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? Dave, what's the deal with Don? What's the deal with Dick? Dick, what's the deal with Dave? What's the deal with Doc? Gotta go Dave disconnecting. Gotta go Dave disconnecting. Gotta go Dick disconnecting. Pete did a bang job. I'm putting you in charge of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh perfect. I know it's perfect, Peter. That's why I picked Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh perfect. Peter, call me Pete. Call me Pete. And people had never seen someone be calm and do the fast talking and like almost be dead, like sitting there, Dave, what's the deal with the deal? They'd always seen the screaming, crazy Eddie kind of people doing the hands, and that really, kind of put me to the forefront. And then in the various jobs that I did, I got to play a bunch of different characters doing the fast talking. So it made it different than just the crazy Eddie kind of screaming spokesperson. And I really never thought I'd make a career out of it, but over the years, I've done 750 commercials for various different products, worked in 37 countries, and so while there are other fast talkers out there, and certainly a lot of the rappers now, talk very quickly, that's what they do. Yep. They rap.
Yep.
And I always think of myself as an actor who can talk fast as opposed to a fast talker who acts.
Right.
So I've been lucky that way that I've managed to incorporate it into a lot of different characters. Same trick, different show.
Right. Okay. Now, was there a Micro Machine commercial where you did a rap or no?
I did a little rap in one of the Micro Machine commercials. There were 125 of those that we did that ran in the 37 countries. And there was one that gave me a little rap. They used to do all sorts of stuff with me.
I vaguely remembered one.
Yeah, it was a very short little piece of it. Was like kind of a little rap thing we did. They used to torture me in those commercials. They would put me through freezing cold. We shot them in January to go to Toy Fair in February every year. They had one. There was a car wash set, and we filmed it at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was like 30 degrees in the studio. And they're pulling me on this little conveyor belt, hand pulling me, while they're shooting me with foam and water and all this stuff. And I'm holding this car wash set, talking fast, and I read everything off a teleprompter because honestly, I have not enough brain cells left in my head to remember any of these things that people want me to say. So everything's got to be on the teleprompter. And you're trying to read and you can't see, and they're blowing suds in your eyes and whatever else. But we eventually got it done. So, but there was one, I think, I flew in 2 of them, and I think the one I rapped in was one of the ones I flew in. Okay. They had me rapping as I came flying down into the set.
Right. Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Hello again. I have a question for each of you. First off, for Richard Newman. I actually had my own question regarding your role as Golem from Monster Rancher. My question was, when you were first just starting off as the character of Golem, what was your impression of playing such a big character who had such a lumbering voice?
Well, that's what's so thrilling about the whole industry, especially the voice industry, because again, nobody is going to cast me as the Thing, right? And not physically. So to be able to play a role like that, I've always jumped all over the opportunity to play characters that are so totally different from myself. So that was just a gas. And also guessing right is so nice. When you go in and they say, here's your character, give me a voice. Okay.
How about this one?
Oh, perfect. I love it. You go, whew. Okay, whew. So yeah, I mean, at first it's just relief that, yeah, they said yes. And then, no, now I have to deal with this. Now I have to do this guy over and over again. Okay, then. One of my first gigs was a show called Video Power. And I had just about given up on voice work. I'd auditioned and not gotten anything, So finally I went in, and one of the characters they wanted me to audition for was a character called Mr. Big. Oh my God, somebody remembers! What this was, it was like 4 or 5 different video game heroes who were brought together to be a team. And then there were 3 video game villains who they fought against all the time. And I was... Pardon? One of them was a monster truck, quite right, yes. So I just went in and I was just so fed up with the whole thing.
I just did this. All right, this is Mr. Big. And I don't care. If you don't want to cast me, don't cast me. I don't care.
Well, they cast me. And we're doing 3 episodes over 2 days every other week.
And I'm having to do this voice. And it's not really very easy.
So I finally worked it out that if we had 3 episodes over 2 days and Mr. Big was only in 2 of the 3, that we'd only do 1 on each day. So I didn't have to do all 3 of them. But I wound up doing 3 roles in that show, which was sort of after having almost given up on it, thought, oh, okay, so you want me to do this after all. Cool.
Now for Michael. What is your own personal thought on Cosmos's alt mode? Like, what is your own personal in-universe reason for why his alt mode looks like the least disguised thing in the Transformers? He literally turns into a UFO.
Well, actually, the truth is, he started out as a small green wart. He was very, very sad, but then he found the Charles Atlas advertisements in the back of the comic books. He did the exercises, he took the vitamins, he grew huge and big and lumbering, and he turned into a blossoming flying saucer. He was the saucer first. Then he had a very unfortunate landing, which rearranged his component parts, so his ambulatory form actually came later. Does that hold together at all?
That is both inspirational and tragic. And my last question is for John. As the world's fastest talking man, I'm sure that in your early days you had plenty of tongue twister wipeouts. What was probably the most memorable time when your mouth betrayed you?
I don't know. There have been several times. When I used to do, back in the day, they used to have a lot of local talk shows, which they don't have anymore. And you'd go out on physical tours instead of doing satellite press tours. You'd do 29 cities in 24 days, kind of a thing. So I freaked a lot of people out because they always wanted me to teach them how to do the fast talking. But my favorite one, used to be a lady on the Today Show called Jessica Savage, who had a rather untimely death in the Erie Canal. Her car fell upside down and she drowned in mud. I had nothing to do with it, I swear. But she was a very talented news lady, but she had a sibilant S, and her name was Jessica Savage, and she talked like this. So one morning I was doing the Today Show, and she was covering another story, and she was running a little late, and she was going to be doing the interview with me. And she comes running in at the last minute, and I'm sitting down, and they hand her the notes, and she hadn't had a chance to look at the notes, and she's going over it very quickly, and they're counting us down. 5, 4, and she sees the part that says, John teaches Jessica to talk fast. And she goes, 3, 2, she goes, no S's, no S's. Hi, we're here with John Moschitta. So, but I really haven't had. I did a bunch of JetBlue commercials a couple of years ago, and I was having the hardest time getting those words out in the morning. But then I ate a little, and it worked in the afternoon. But sometimes it just doesn't. It just works, and sometimes it just doesn't. But usually I do okay. I can usually fight my way through it.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, we are currently at the 10-minute mark. So if you've been shoring up your courage to come up here, now's the time. We're gonna have to go through this kind of quickly, though.
Question for John.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you in one episode in Saved by the Bell as playing one of the teachers. So what was it like working with the cast?
Well, yeah, that was Terrible Testaverde, the history teacher. The cast, they were all, when I did the show, it was the original version, and they were all underage. So most of the time, they were all in school during the day. So I can tell you a lot about their parents because I got to spend a lot of time with them on the set. Screech's dad was a little obnoxious, but Mario's was very nice. Just smoking hot mom for Zach, let me tell you. But it was fun. They were fun kids. They weren't spoiled yet. A lot of times you work with kids and you just want to like push them through the wall. I mean, they're just really just entitled little sons of guns, sweet little things. You know, you want to go, I'm gonna kick them. But they were all really nice, and it was a lot of fun. But you only get to work with them 20 minutes at a time, and then they have to go back to school again.
And question for Richard. Do you have a favorite Rhinox moment or favorite Beast War episode?
Well, I actually think I answered this a little earlier. The episode that I really loved was, of course, the belching episode. But Rhinox moment, that's really interesting. I think the first time I was able to say something like, you know what, I just feel like slowing down and smelling the flowers. It was just such a wacky thing to think about on a foreign planet with this big green thing wanting to smell flowers. I just thought that was kind of wacky and wonderful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have another question for Michael. I checked on your IMDb last night, and I noticed that you were on the Gong Show, and my dad remembers that. So, can you please tell me your experience about that on that show?
Well, which time? I appeared twice. Once as one of the amazing Dolphin brothers.
Yes, I saw that one.
You. Oh, honey, you're not nearly old enough. And the other was when I gave a dramatic reading from the white pages of the Burbank telephone book. And on that one, I got gonged because Jamie Farr said, "This act has got to be 86th. Ba-dum!"
Well, and my other question is for Richard. Now, we talked earlier about like you doing Shakespeare at the Park,
right,
being Shylock in Merchant of Venice. If you remember like a couple of lines, could you please do them in your Rhinox voice?
In the Rhinox voice?
Or at least just do a couple of lines, just to have you.
Senor Antonio, many a time and oft in the Rialto you have rated me about my money and my usances. Still have I borne it with a patient shrug, for sufferance is the badge of all our tribe.
All right, thank you very much.
I can't believe I remember that.
Hi, John. I have two questions for you.
Okay.
How long did it take the movie Transformers, the movie?
What was the beginning part of the question?
How long did it take?
Oh, it was very quick session. Just go in, kind of do the lines, and then you know, it's 2 years later the movie comes out. It's like you do it, and they kind of tell you what's going to happen, and I hadn't even seen a picture of what the character was going to look like, and it was really, it's always a big surprise. But it was, a couple of years, and very quick session time.
And what was it like working with Peter Cullen?
It was work. All those guys, everybody in the original Transformers and in the movie and everything, everybody was just great. They were so much fun to be around. I was always upset. I was very busy with my career, doing a lot of different things, literally all over the world, during the beginning part of the movie and the series. So a lot of times I was not available to do the group sessions, and I was always upset by that because it was so much fun to go in and just hang out with these guys and do the sessions. So they were all really great, and I really enjoyed working with all of them.
Thank you.
It's very much like it used to be in the old days when we had live radio plays. And you'd have a dozen actors at microphones in a room working with each other and working off each other. It's one of the most fun things about this biz, is looking at the actor across the room who's doing it just as crazy a voice as you're doing. And his arms are going all over the place. It's a wonderful atmosphere. Great place to be.
Okay, we are currently at the 5-minute mark, so it's going to be kind of a lightning round.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick. This is mostly for John and Michael, but Richard, you're more than welcome to step in if you want to say something. I'm just wondering if anybody's brought forward the idea of a Transformers-voiced GPS navigation program.
Recalculate. Damn it, recalculate. Recalculate.
Where are you going? I told you to make a right turn over there. You should have made the right when I told you to make the right. Why didn't you take that right? Now you got to turn around. You got to go back the other way.
Left, damn it.
Thank you very much, you guys.
You're welcome.
Hi, gentlemen. Nice to see you again. I just have a quick question. Has anybody ever asked you guys to, because I'm not sure you really get the opportunity to interact with each other with your individual characters, but if, like, say, Trax or Cosmos, was interacting with Blurr, was interacting with Rhinox, do you guys have anything that you think they would say to each other in a just if they were meeting for the first time? Because I know in the original show, Trax and Blurr never had any interaction. And I know none of you would have had any interaction with Beast Wars characters, but, if you guys, two cars meeting a transforming rhinoceros, what would you guys say to each other?
Well, it depends on what he's wearing.
Blurr, is it?
Oh.
Blurr?
Oh.
I have one word for you. Decaffeinated.
I simply don't know what you mean, or I'll think about that in the future. But really, when in the morning, I really don't like my oil if it's decaffeinated.
You two little guys just get out of my way.
Thanks, guys.
This is a question for all three of you. As animation has moved away from the classical method and there's CG and all these different workflows, has that changed the job for performers such as yourselves? I mean, is it an aid, or has it become a hindrance that they can do all the tweaks and stuff like that? Does the art suffer?
Well, it's two different things. I mean, we do the voices, and then they do the drawing to the voices. So, in the old way and the new way, it's pretty much the same thing. The only way that's different is if we're revoicing anime stuff that's already been. But still, again, it's you're working to the image. I know that it was very interesting when the second Fantasia came out, and they had the one piece that was old animation, and everything else was new animation, and people really noticed the difference. But yeah, it's sort of chicken and egg, right?
Yeah, no, I'd have to say the same thing. It's pretty much the voices, for the most part, unless you're doing looping and you're putting a new soundtrack in, you do that first. So that hasn't really changed for us. You do that exactly the same way. The methods of them doing the animation have changed, and a lot of times it speeds it up, makes it faster, so you're not doing stuff in the year 2000 and it's on the air in 2007. So I think a lot of the quality of the animation suffers a lot of the time because it looks like it was done really fast. Some of it looks like that on purpose, and some of it just looks like it because it's the way it's done. But that's what it is. But it doesn't affect what we have to do because we still have to go in and do the voices and then give them something to work with.
Well, I'm an actor from the old days. I remember when cartoon people had edges. Dang it.
Thank you.
Hi. They say ice cream's supposed to clear your voice as a voice actor. So what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah, you want to go into a voice session after eating ice cream and cheese and chocolate. That will really help.
It's really the best thing for you. You have one glomming spitball in your throat when you eat all that dairy stuff. You do not want to eat dairy before you do anything.
Yep.
Somebody was pulling your leg.
No ice cream. But I like all flavors of ice cream. I'm an equal opportunity ice cream eater.
And I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't tell you it is.
But no, dairy's the worst thing you can eat for your throat if you want to sing or do voices or do whatever. It could just coats your throat in mucus.
And
what
chocolate.
would be a thing to clear your voice?
Well, like tea and lemon keeps your voice clear, hot water and lemon. And I had an old opera singer. I was doing a benefit at the Metropolitan Museum, Metropolitan Opera House in New York. And I had a really bad case of laryngitis. And this old opera singer came up to me and she said, well, I have a really disgusting cure. It'll work, but it's not nice, but I use it whenever I have to do it. And she gave me a nice big spoonful of Vaseline.
A tequila shot will also help.
Yes. Well, she was fresh out of tequila, but for some reason, this big old opera singer had plenty of Vaseline around.
Thank you.
Okay, here's a quick one, guys. If you didn't go into showbiz for your careers, what would you be doing with your lives instead?
Wow.
I'd be selling shoes. Toes are nice.
It's a really good question. I mean, I don't think I've ever even thought about doing anything else since I was like 5, so I have no idea. Probably maybe be a teacher? No, that's the worst thing in the world, to be a teacher when you're not doing the thing you want to do, because then you have a vested interest in the people you're teaching not succeeding.
Right.
So the worst acting teachers in the world are failed actors. You don't want to go to that school.
How dare you have a dream?
Yes, and be good at it. When I failed.
I think I'd be something where I would be trying to convince, like a lawyer or something, because I don't take no for an answer.
An auctioneer.
An auctioneer. My grandfather was actually an auctioneer. He auctioned tomatoes and watermelons for supermarkets in New York. But I think I'd probably be like a lawyer or something where I was constantly, trying to convince people of stuff and arguing things and doing whatever.
Thank you very much.
All right, big hand for our guests. Thank you.